very good evening to you with a Wednesday, August 8th edition of the CBC Evening News. I'm Ryan Broom. In our top story, strike action by the majority of staff at First Citizens Bank in Barbados saw the doors of at least 3 of the 6 banking centers closed, and as a result, some customers were forced to make alternative arrangements. Rianne Phillips has more.
With at least 75% of the bank staff off the job, many customers were forced to use ATMs, visit alternative locations, or postpone their business. These notices posted on the doors notified the public of the closure and directed them to other branches.
I just came here to do some business during my lunch period, and I was surprised to see that the door was closed, and a customer even said that apparently they were on strike, but this is news to me because I was not aware that there was some kind of industrial action taking place. And normally I bank with First Citizen, and in fact they're the only commercial bank I deal with. So I'm kind of at odds as to how I'm gonna pay my credit card.
The employees gathered at the Barbados Workers Union headquarters to meet with union officials this morning. BWU Industrial Relations Director Dwayne Paul says the bank failed to uphold its end of a 2016 agreement which addresses the need for a percentage of profits to be shared with staff.
This agreement was reached in 2016 and have been honored to date, albeit to finalize the actual language of this agreement. The bank has informed the union through correspondence that they were unwilling or unable to have this agreement honored. The union responded by saying that we were willing to discuss the challenges the bank may be facing, however, we could not alter the agreement since the agreement was reached since 2016.
Up until the filing of this report, management of First Citizens Bank had declined to speak to CBC on the matter. Rianne Phillips, CBC News.
Thanks, Rianne. Well, there's still no resolution to the dispute between the Barbados Workers Union and the management of First Citizens Bank. Speaking to CBC this evening, Mr. Paul said the two parties are seeking to find common ground.
In this First Citizens situation, the Barbados Workers Union and the management of the company have been engaging in dialogue throughout the course of the day in an attempt to resolve the situation. Unfortunately, as I speak to you, the situation remains unresolved. However, there's a commitment from the organization, from the bank, to seek to continue discussions during the course of today, and we are hopeful that those discussions can continue today with the view of resolving this matter. So at this stage, the situation is unresolved, and the meeting with the workers continue during the remainder of the day.
Now, Mr. Paul says the outcome of those discussions will determine whether the industrial action will continue tomorrow.
We're really hoping to have a position from the company, and we do have a commitment to try to finish discussions today. So a lot hinges on if we can complete discussions today or not, in terms of making that determination as to what are the next steps with the staff come tomorrow.
In other news now, a national food inspection manual and food sampling plan is being developed for Barbados. Minister of Agriculture and Food Security Indar Ware says it is being developed to better coordinate the inspection programs of the various government departments. Mr. Ware made the revelation during the 4th annual Barbados Food, Law and Industry Conference, an exhibition at the Accra Beach Hotel. The conference, hosted by Genesis Law Chambers, is being held under the theme Legally Fit for Consumption. Mr. Ware also notes it's necessary for Barbados to examine its national agriculture, health and food control systems.
To ensure compliance with the many international agreements, standards and codes of practice in order to mitigate these potential risks. Modern national agricultural, food and health control systems are risk-based and embrace a farm-to-fork approach that seeks to ensure the safety and quality of food from production to consumption.
The Barbados Association of Non-Governmental Organizations, or BANGO, held its first meeting with new Minister of the Environment and National Beautification, Trevor Prescott, last weekend. The meeting comes as part of the government's interest in working with civil society in addressing a number of its objectives. The breakfast meeting, held at the Courtyard by Marriott, was attended by Bangor's Secretary General, Ms. Faye Best, and several interim committee members. Among the items discussed were government's plans on reviving the Social Justice Committee as a means of getting non-governmental organizations, businesses and cooperatives, and workers' unions involved. Their submissions and input will be brought forward to the social partnership. Government is looking for organizations to come up with ideas on how to mentor the youth, provide employment services such as counseling, and help unemployed people to find jobs. Permanent Secretary Yolande Howard says the ministry is seeking assistance from Bangor with developing a national mentorship program framework. The Barbados Junior Robotic Camp, hosted by the Caribbean Science Foundation, culminated in fine style today at the UWI Cayfield campus. Assistant Director of Program Management at the foundation, Daniela De Silva, said over the last 5 weeks, the 58 students were exposed to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, also known as STEM.
Get these students to understand the need for STEM and to also develop that niche that they have currently and the passion that they have. We have a lot of students who are interested in robotics, but they didn't know where to go or what to do, and our camp offers them the opportunity to come and explore and see if it is that this is a program that they really want to be a part of.
Mr. Silva said the program was a success.
Our level 1 students will display their robots that they built from our VEX robotics kit. Similarly, our level 2 students, these students would have learned how to program their robots using Scratch and also to using ModKit. And over the 5 weeks, they would have been immersed in these programs, trying to understand more what it is that they want to do, how to pursue it, and basically those who might not have known anything about it before, to give them a feel for this area of science.
6 years after it was destroyed by fire, the lunchroom at the Bridgetown Sewage Treatment Plant has been reopened. It was officially reopened last Friday by Minister responsible for the Barbados Water Authority, Wilfred Abrams, as well as Chairman of the BWA, Leo Dean Worrell, the General Manager, Keith Roy Halliday, and other officials. During his remarks, Minister Abrams says the reopening is a symbol and an example of what can be done when everyone pulls together in the same direction. He advised staff to never feel that anything was too small to mention to him, because if it was important to staff, it was important to him. In his remarks to staff of the BSTP, the minister stated that he knew how important it was for people who work together to feel like a family. He noted that quite often it was in such places of work where people lined on afternoons, had a drink on Friday, and played cricket or dominoes together that saw the most productive work. Well, a top prize of $5,000 will be up for grabs when a Guyanese side takes on home team Barbados in the inaugural Media Links Productions Rock Hard Cement Caribbean Karaoke competition on September 1st at Pirates Cove. During the competition launch at CMC headquarters, Executive Director of the event Clifton Henry said he intends to take the competition around the entire region. He says 5 Barbadians will take on 5 Guyanese here in Barbados before the competition shifts to Guyana.
On November 10th, we can take 5 Guyanese, 5 Bajans, to Guyana to compete in the second leg of the championship. Now, how we plan to do this is as a home and away basis, where we will start. We started with Guyana. The next country on our radar is St. Vincent, followed by Antigua, then we come back to Grenada or St. Lucia. But the thing is, we can try to cover as many islands as possible, where we take competitors to those islands to take part in competition, and then bring a similar number to our Barbados to compete against the Barbadians. At the end of it all, we will have then a Caribbean champion.
One of the Bajan team members, Roger Collymore, promises a great show.
And I'm encouraging the general public, come out, support this endeavor. We would have mentioned CARICOM and so on, and this is one way to get people at the local level moving through the region, doing something that we all love, doing something that can be invested in by the corporate Caribbean, and I guarantee you guys, you're going to have a fantastic night.
Welcome back. We start with this sad story. Belize is trying to come to terms with the news that a 7-year-old boy took his own life. The boy was reportedly heard saying he was tired of living. He is the youngest victim of suicide in the CARICOM state, as we hear from Channel 5, Belize.
The neighborhood where he and his family lived is a remote part of the coastal village in an area adjacent to the Placencia Lagoon. Another person, who has asked to remain unnamed, describes the incident after Antoine had been brought out to the roadside.
We were all working. One of the workmen needed to go home. I see he ran, and we went out there behind him, and there was this lady with this little boy, and he was like already dead. So we tried to rush her out to the front of the office at our work, and some of the guys tried to give him CPR, but he was already gone. He had like food and stuff coming out of his nose because he was, I guess, gone already.
So what could have prompted the young primary school student on summer break from St. Alphonsus RC to take his own life? The answer possibly lies in a number of emotional and psychological factors that may have come to play at the point where Antoine decided to turn on himself.
I just buried my girl niece. She born the same month in May, and she dead in August, and she was 7, and she me going to stand at 1. And now the exact thing we catch my son. And she did just knock she down right beside of she grandmother just knock she down.
Unfortunately, children do experience depression just as adults. They experience some form of trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder. So they do experience thoughts of suicide.
In St. Lucia, the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College Board has resigned. Every member of the board submitted his or her resignation to the Minister of Education yesterday.
Just mere weeks following the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College hiking tuition fees announcement, the Tertiary Education Institutions Board has resigned en masse. The college indicated that the increase in fees was to facilitate the transition to becoming a university college, as well as meeting some of its pressing financial commitments. The college has been struggling to plug the gaping hole in its budget. HTS News Force has been informed of the college's outstanding debts to the utility companies. The government's subvention of $15 million plus student fees are inadequate to meet the cost of operating the college. The board opted for an increase in the fees of 100% to meet the shortfall. This seemed to have been very unpopular with the public and the government, prompting the government's intervention and decision to meet the additional sum that would have resulted from the increase, sparing students and their families of that burden.
Over in the Bahamas, the Supreme Court has ordered the government and utility providers to halt any planned service disconnections or evictions in shanty towns pending a judicial review of the Minister administration's policy to eradicate those communities. Supreme Court Justice Cheryl Grant Thompson granted the injunction just days ahead of the government's August 10th deadline. We have a report from Our News.
A lot of people needed some more time. At the same time, a lot of people already moved from the villages, and some of the people ain't working, and some of the elderly people can't afford it. So they needed some more time to be able to save up to get the first and last month and security deposit for the houses.
Shantytown residents responding to an interlocutory injunction granted by Supreme Court Justice Cheryl Grant Thompson, which prevents the government from proceeding with planned demolitions of 9 shantytowns in New Providence, as well as plans to disconnect utility services in those villages.
My most relief about it is for the kids, you know what I mean, because school right there is about to open. You see, they saying because a lot of these parents don't really have the funds to provide the needs for their kids.
The injunction, which was granted following a conference call on Saturday, comes following the approval of an application for leave for judicial review. Bringing the application were 177 residents of shantytowns from New Providence and Abaco.
Cross the Caribbean, brought to you by CIBC First Caribbean.
Sports news is just ahead with Anne-Marie Burke, but before we get there, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
After a hurricane, Do not use your car unnecessarily, as this should help to conserve gasoline. Cooperators General Insurance, helping you to be prepared this hurricane season.